Families are complicated. Every family has their crazy uncle. My Uncle Donald is atomic crazy.
The common denominator is money, 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 money. You see it with Me Too. You see it with Black Lives Matter. You see it with Antifa. You follow the money trail. You understand the motivation. Let's get to this Fred Trump. He was trending everywhere because he's been propelled into the media spotlight. And this is just, I really do hate the media. I mean it. It's just the legacy media. And yes, the clickbait that you see on both sides and the fake news on the right and the left. But I just don't think you could see something out there as far as a story that's more clearly manufactured, or someone said we need to drum up some kind of controversy. Can we find a disgruntled relative or former employee of Donald Trump? This is a very common playbook for anyone who is wealthy, who is fame, and the common denominator. The media will want you to believe the common denominator is the person being attacked, like Donald Trump. The common denominator is the people who are doing the attacking are seeking money or fame.
Yeah.
I know sometimes say, I didn't want $1, except my book. Sell my book. So let's be clear. At the end of the day, it comes down to money. Now, Fred Trump, we're going to show you what the media is showing you, and then give you a little bit of background. Do a little bit of a then and now, because Fred Trump contradicts himself and has been supported by President Trump for a very long time. They've had a relationship that's been kind of up and down, largely based on money. Let's start with this interview that you've probably seen. This guy, Fred Trump, and this is the Fred Trump III, right? He's Donald Trump's nephew. His father was Trump's brother, Fred Trump II, to be clear. Gave an ABC interview, which I will say this. The one positive is in him saying that he's heard Donald Trump say the N-word twice, even if true, all but guarantees that Donald Trump is not a racist.
What's the Trump way?
Complex and sometimes cruel. And within every family, people know this, families are complicated. Every family has their crazy uncle. My Uncle Donald is atomic crazy.
Atomic
Or
crazy?
you pay for your haircut?
What's that mean?
Means
He looks like the
does
Sandman from
things that
Spider-Man.
Even as much as I know him, when he's out there now, I sort of shudder and say, is this the same guy I knew? What's making him change?
His hands are tiny.
What got him this way?
Who the fuck is that guy?
Is he the same guy you knew who you didn't mind when the checks were clearing? So let's look at this bombshell interview a little bit more and who Fred Trump really is in an installment of Now and Then. And smash that Rumble button or like on YouTube, wherever you're watching this, because right now, if you search Fred Trump, it's just going to be that interview, and then that interview replayed in the search algorithm on YouTube from other people saying, isn't this a great interview? Click like or subscribe.
Fred Christ Trump. Please,
Christ
I need the full name.
Yeah, his middle name's Christ.
Fred
Wow.
Christ.
So let's go to now. And we'll contrast with then all references available at LiveWithCrowder.com or link in the description. Fred told ABC that Donald Trump hates disabled people, that he's racist, and that he himself, Fred, was going to be voting for Kamala.
He just came out with these people, all the expenses. They should just die. He's talking about human beings who have complex issues. And the first thing he could say was, they should just die.
Pause.
Donald...
You stole that from Charles Dickens. If they'd rather die, then they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population. I don't believe for a second that that is true, but we'll get to that. Continue.
I could hear him screaming. And I went down to the driveway of my grandparents' house, and there was his white Eldorado convertible with 2 slashes. Still remember it. And he had electrical tape because the roof was black. And he used the N-word twice, just saying who he thought probably had done this.
You were 10 years old when these comments were allegedly
50
uttered.
years ago?
Credible source.
It was so.
You sure you
hold on a
remember
second.
that?
Pause.
Oh, absolutely.
It was so scarring to hear the N-word in the '60s that he remembers it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the only time that he thinks he used those words. Come on.
He almost said it there.
That's a good track record. I will tell you this. In this office, when the Hodge twins are here, I mean, you're going to have that before 6 a.m. Continue.
Absolutely. Without question, Kamala Harris's policies are what I get behind. So I will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Oh, he likes that.
And if I'm asked, I will campaign for her without hesitation.
Sure, and I'm sure you'll also be hawking those books, right? Hawking those books on the campaign trail. Same publisher as the sister, Mary Trump, by the way.
really?
Yeah, same publisher.
That's interesting.
Even though, let's go to then, Fred Trump, to be clear, made these comments when his sister Mary, same publisher, now Simon & Schuster, released her book on the Trump family. He said, "My wife, children, and I have a strong relationship with our extended family. We had no involvement with the preparation of this book, which is a breach of trust and a violation of our privacy."
Well.
As far as him saying that Donald Trump said, just let the disabled die. They're gross. He actually made a comment about this not too long ago, stating, regarding his son's medical care, "As is also known by Mary, our son William has been very well provided for financially for many years through the William Trump Medical Fund by my aunts and uncles, Mary Ann, Donald, Elizabeth, and Robert, for which we are very appreciative." And the estimated support amounted to about $750,000 a year,
That's nice.
according to Daily Mail.
Wow.
So now, and people will say, well, he withheld some money from the child because he's cruel. Donald Trump at one point. No, here's what happened, to be clear, all right? Donald Trump's father died. Okay. Donald Trump's brother, Fred II, you need to understand this, drank himself to death. He was a lifetime screw-up. Now, this does matter when you understand the context, because this was incredibly integral to the formative years of Donald Trump. It's why Donald Trump, people may not know this, Donald Trump is a teetotaler. He's never touched alcohol or illicit drugs, ever. Because his brother was such an addict, and his brother was so corrosive to the family fabric and caused a lot of chaos and problems and drank himself to death. That turned Donald Trump. That was a big influence on him having an insane work ethic, saying, I don't want to end up like Fred Trump II, this guy's father. When Donald Trump's father died, he had dementia, Alzheimer's. There was a will. And so Donald Trump and I believe his sister, they were the primary executors of the will. The dad's will largely cut Fred II, this guy's dad, out of the will because he was a screw-up, which is well documented. That's not in dispute. It's been discussed at great length. And so as they executed the will, Donald Trump and his sister, they wanted to be in line with the views of the father, and they had to take care of this because he had dementia, he had Alzheimer's at that point. So they were like, well, you're not going to get as much because dad didn't want it that way. He didn't trust Fred with these kinds of resources. And then he got sued. The family sued him. When they sued him, he said, well, I'm not going to pay to sue myself. So you get no money. And he admitted it. He said, I did. He said, I did it as revenge while they were suing me. I decided to cut off all money. It wasn't to punish just the child, to be clear. That's the context there. The common denominator is money, 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 money. You see it with Me Too. You see it with Black Lives Matter. You see it with Antifa. You follow the money trail. You understand the motivation. So let's give you some of the context here. This was in 2000. Fred III and Mary sued the Trump family regarding the will. Right? They argued that the will was influenced by Donald, other co-executors, because they didn't like what the dad, this guy's grandfather, the dad of the kids did. Their problem was with the dad, but they sued Donald. The father trusted Donald and Mary Ann Trump, trusted them to take care of the finances, didn't trust Fred. Your problem is with the dad.
Right.
Okay? And Fred Trump III later on said about it, at the time that our lawsuit with the family was resolved, Mary and I had each received a generous financial settlement from the family and were more than willing to agree to execute non-disclosure provisions, all of which had been approved and recommended by our attorneys and advisors at that point in time. So, when did he break bad? And this matters here because did he benefit? Is there a point in time where you go, okay, this guy got some money, they sued, got money, they were quiet for a while, were they friendly? Did he benefit from the Trump presidency? And when did it change? Well, yes, he did. Yes, he did. Both in influence in working with President Trump at that point in time, and as well, he was actually managing, he worked for a company that managed a lot of the real estate holdings of Donald Trump then. Only when he got fired, times out with about the book deal. So 2017 to 2020, all references available, he had meetings at the White House, Fred Trump, to discuss his advocacy for those with intellectual disability. It was kind of his pet project. And, he was kind of entertained by Donald Trump at that point. And in case you don't believe me, just believe this picture. Here he is, right there. Yes, that looks like somebody who is terrified of his crazy uncle who said the N-word twice 50 years ago. And in 2020, he even said that he had a promising conversation with the president. Here's what happens in 2021. Fred Trump let go from an executive director role at it was called Cushman and Wakefield. This was a firm, that managed a lot of the real estate holdings of the Trump family. So you can imagine how he got that job. All throughout his tenure there, friendly with Donald Trump. We're doing great work. Here's me in the Oval Office. After January 6th, due to political expediency, they severed ties with the Trump family, and Fred Trump III happened to be one of them. Then we get to a book deal. N-word, monster, said that my disabled son should die. You need to understand something here. This is not an exception. This is the rule for people in positions of great influence, power, and fame. The media know E. Jean Carroll, that's another example. She's absolutely out of her mind. There's no doubt about that. These people are useful tools. And right now, he wants to sue Donald Trump because the gravy train has stopped. It's left the station. He needs to find another way to make money. Let me capitalize on this with a book. And you don't think that there are people in the media, by the way, who are scraping everywhere they can, saying, what do you got? What do you got that we can use in this election? Remember that they said there was a tape on Celebrity Apprentice of him saying the N-word? That never surfaced.
Nope.
You see that reporter's face on ABC. He lit up.
Yeah.
When
Smiled.
anytime he said something negative about Uncle Donald,
What?
he did what?
Atomically?
Yeah, what do you mean by atomic? He was so stoked he's getting all this good information.
I know.
Yeah. And then they want you to believe in legacy journalism. They go, it's very important for us to be, to be true, credible journalists. Really? All you have is this guy saying shit, and it contradicts the other shit that he said when he was receiving free shit.
But you never. So that's also the problem is nobody pushed back on him. This guy's going on a glorified book tour right now, basically trying to hawk his wares. I understand he wants to stay relevant. He wants to make money. And nobody said, hey, what about the time you said that you had a really positive conversation with Donald Trump? Hey, what about the time that you got access to the White House? There's no way. There's no way an administration is meeting with you, even though maybe your objectives are good and you're trying to help some people out. There's no way you rate a meeting with the administration in the White House. Did you try to use that to your benefit to try to help, like crazy Uncle Donald was in there and you thought, well, I'll just hold my nose? Nobody asked those questions. And by the way, it would also be good if maybe people had interviewed Barack Obama's brother. Maybe that would have been another interview and you can go, okay, well, at least there's fairness on both sides of this thing. The media went and talked to somebody who had a lot of critical things to say about Obama, and they did the same thing with Trump, fine, and they pushed back, fine. None of that happened.
No.
It's just, what dirt do you have? We're going to throw it out there and act like it's true.
And it's the easiest, it's sort of the easiest tactic in employing selection bias that you can take advantage of working in media. Just dirt and where you use anonymous sources.
Yes, somebody said, or he may have said.
Right, because he can't defend himself.
No.
That's one of those things. They'll say Donald Trump is, he's a guy who fired half of his cabinet. Yeah, but what you don't hear about are the employees that he's had for many, many decades who are loyal and love the guy. You know why? Because they're probably working at his companies now, and they are under non-disclosures, as people are in companies that require trade secrets to be kept a secret. They will trot out every single person who has something to gain to assault your character, and you don't get to defend yourself. That's the issue, and that's the world that we live in now. You combine that with cancel culture, it's a very, very dangerous place to be. And by the way, that can happen to you. It does happen to you, just so you know. It does happen to you when you apply for a job, and there are other people vying for your spot. They're going to find anything you've ever said on social media and use it against you so that they can take your spot. Think of that. Now apply it to billions of dollars. That's what you're dealing with. And look, we've lived it.
Yeah.
You don't hear from the people who are happy who stay with the company. You don't hear from them. And even if they wanted to speak about it, they have to focus on a campaign. They have to focus on being positive. They have to focus on message. And if you defend yourself, what happens is they go, doth protest too much? I know that quote. It's like, I didn't kill him. That's something a guilty murderer would say.
No, but
Fine.
or an innocent person.
Yeah. So this will be a flash in the pan, but it's one of many.
It's disgusting, though. It's very
disgusting.
disgusting. I
It
hate
is. It's
hate
disgusting.
it because the media, they feed off of this kind of stuff. Like, go find an unreliable source. It's just like the suckers and losers comment. Like, it's like, oh, so
Say
you're
it
the
right.
only person.
You're the sucker. You're the loser, sucker.
Say it right, Gerald.
You're the only person that heard it? Fantastic. It's just like the Tea Party. They were yelling the N-word. I'll give you $100,000 if you find a video. Nobody came up with one. But the media runs with it as though it's truth.
Right.
They report on it and other people report on it because now the media becomes the source.
Right.
CNN said, according to CNN, according to MSNBC. And it's like, well, that's not a source.
Well, and then what ends up happening is you have the media. This is why I said the media, Democrat, entertainment, industrial complex, because the media reports on it, even though it's not true. And the film rights get bought to it, right? That's another thing is they decide which film rights they want to purchase, which films actually get to be made. For example, James O'Keefe, Acorn, where it ends up being defunded. We don't necessarily cover that. The Gunwalker scandal, the ATF, we don't necessarily cover that. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, we don't necessarily cover that. But Aaron Brockovich, as it relates to tap water, is one of those that we're going to be covering because this is about someone standing up to corruption. And by the way, yes, it is true. The media especially has really latched on to the idea that Donald Trump said, kill your disabled son. The movie rights have been purchased, and we do have an exclusive sneak peek. I do want to see it, though. I'm not going to lie.
I do.
I hope it's 90 minutes of that. Set on repeat. The guy's face, too.
I'm at the point I believe almost nothing I read from legacy media and very little of what I see or hear. But you know what? Hey, Fred Trump III, we invite you onto this show. Sell some books.
Hey, his book is he's a hack, too, by the way. That's why I'm mad at him. He called his book All in the Family.
Yes.
Really?
He's stealing sitcom names?
No.
All in the Family. What's it called?
On.
Oh, yeah. All in the Family. What's the subtitle?
Just
Trump's and How We Got Here?
The way. Wait.
How we got this
How we
way.
got this way. That's it. Yeah.
Kamala Harris is going to have a book called Family Matters.
Yes.
The greater love of the family.
This how we got this way. Well, hold on a second. What do you mean we? What do you mean? Again, we're looking at the Trump, the other generation, Donald Trump and his sister and his brother. I believe there's two brothers. I believe Robert was one. Some are successful tycoons. One's a billionaire. One was an addict who never fixed it and drank himself to death. There's no we. There's no we. Ask yourself this. You have any screw-ups in your family? Is it a we? Are you the same as this brother, sister, or cousin? Should you all be lumped into the same category? Let me ask you one more. Let's say tomorrow, wave a magic wand, you're now rich and famous. You have millions or billions, or you have millions of viewers. I want you to right now think of the worst person in your family who nobody trusts. What do you think they do? You think they come knocking on your door for some money, for a handout? And when you say no, what do you think they do? You think they walk away peacefully? No. Or do you think it's a shakedown? The easiest shakedown is them to simply answer the phone call from the press or Simon & Schuster and go, yeah, I'll tear apart my family for some money because they didn't give me a check. And then they trip over themselves to cash it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it.
Watch Louder with Crowder live Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.